Today I'm talking with Julian Studer. He is CEO and founder of LoRiot. LoRiot is a software provider and network operator for LoRaWAN use cases. We will find out in a second what kind of use cases these are. And in our round today is Philipp Lausberger. He is IoT application specialist from WIKA, our IoT partner as a global leader in pressure and temperature measurement technology. So together we will answer which kind of use cases you could solve with the LoRaWAN technology, like vibration monitoring and valve positioning tracking, and what's special about that, and as usual with concrete practical examples. All the information you will find in the show notes now and on IoTUseCase.com. Let's go and have fun with this special episode. Philipp and Julian, hi and welcome to the IoT Use Case Podcast. Philipp, yes, how are you and where are you exactly in the moment?
Yeah, thank you for the introductions. Pretty good. And so today I'm working in my lovely home office in the cellar. It's cool in the summertime and looking forward to the podcast today.
Nice. And Julian, where are you and how are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. Just surprised about the huge weather change from 30 degrees some days ago to 12 degrees. So the
Crazy, yeah.
Autumn and nearly winter has hit in strongly. But I'm sitting here at home and in the same time in the headquarters because my private place, my home, has become also the headquarters since COVID time. At least the Swiss team is working mostly from home. So I'm sitting privately at home from home office and at the headquarters of LORIOT in Zurich.
Ah, nice. So greetings to Zurich right now. And could we start with a very short introduction, because I would love to learn more about you as a person and what is your responsibility at LoRiot?
Well, I think as a CEO, you have a lot of responsibilities in a company, but just about my background, I founded LORIOT nearly 10 years ago. It was 2015 when I took the decision to start with the company. Before that, I was working for the largest Swiss bank called UBS in the investment sector. So I'm coming from being a pure finance guy, doing investments in the stock exchange and all kind of investment strategies to complete change into IoT. My motivation was that the financial sector became quite tricky, complicated, very compliance legal. And I didn't like that much the administrative stuff. And I had many friends in the software IT sector. And after some research, it looked extremely promising, the future, which today, after 10 years, I can confirm to have done the right step.
Yeah, right. And now you're mainly focused on like low power, wide area network technologies. So I'm very happy that we're talking about this in a second and also what you're doing as a company. But Philipp, to continue with you, what are you doing at WIKA?
Yeah, so I'm the application specialist. So I'm the interface from the sales to the engineering. And so I'm in charge of, let's say, the requirements engineering and understanding the customer's world better. And so that we solve the challenges of our customers and don't provide just, let's say, technology. We need, let's say, to understand what's going on in the field. And so that's my task.
Okay. And now you two sitting together here. So how does that happen? So how did your companies get to know each other?
So IoT is not a one-man show. We need strong partners.
Right.
And so WIKA has been in the field of measurement technologies and, let's say, devices for 80 years now. And also we understand, let's say, the customer processes very well. So we have special market segment management and so on. But we need also something in between from the devices. Solving the challenges today would be in a platform or in the data integration. And we have a really strong partner on our right side.
All right. And that's where the guys from LoRiot come in. So Julian, what's your part here together with WIKA? So what's the role in different projects you're doing together with WIKA?
Yeah, so in the meantime, I call WIKA being part of the big same family. And as Philipp was explaining in the beginning, IoT is still complex and IoT is a big chain of several steps to come to an end result. I always explained IoT is like today at least putting many puzzle pieces together until you get the big picture, because nearly no one in the market has the complete vertical solution, because you need gateways, you need sensors, you need hardware, you need security, you need communication, you need an LNS, you need the APIs. And then in the end, you need visualization platforms. And it's really difficult to be one player and become number one in every single puzzle piece. So The idea of getting together from our side was we were by then not needed of money because we were growing organically, but cash is always nice to have in a company for growth. But our interest was to collaborate with WIKA because they are known as probably the best ones in the measurement technical in the industry. So they had the hardware, they didn't have the software, the communication. We didn't have the hardware, but we did have the security and communication. And we said, okay, guys, let's come together and go to the market together with a vertical that nearly offers a complete vertical solution and both puzzle pieces with the highest quality you see in the market. That was the idea to come together with WIKA because they are the hardware specialists. Let's say we're a software specialist. Together. We were not, let's say, competing in the country. We are complementing each other to a wonderful vertical, super functioning solution today.
Yeah. So, Philipp, maybe to go in a bit more in a deep dive in this topic. So, because you as WIKA, you are known as like one of the world's leading manufacturers of different sensor types like pressure, temperature, force, flow measurement, and so on. And now there is a change happening in your market. And can you explain a bit what the vision is for WIKA here to go now in the digitalization projects together with your customers? Maybe we could talk a bit about the vision you're following here.
Yeah, for sure. It's smart in sensing. So we started from, let's say, being just a equipment manufacturer like pressure sensors or analog gauges. And yeah, today we have a lot of manual processes in the industry where somebody walks around with a clipboard, noting some values down, and also that are really critical assets, like, let's say, oil and gas wells. And you have a lot of manual processes even today. Our big vision is that we, let's say, improve the customer processes and also solve, let's say, the challenges due to monitoring, then also integrate some predictive maintenance and being the partner also for the integration to the current systems.
Yeah. So thanks for bringing the special industry up because we are talking today about a really concrete example of your common customer. But now let's deep dive in the common project. So maybe you could tell me a bit what's the project about and what kind of use cases you're setting up here for customers.
Yeah. Today, I've brought a special use case, and that deals with the integrity of oil and gas wells. Yeah, you need an oil or gas well. Yeah, puts the oil from under the earth to the surface. Very simple explained. And then here the integrity is really important. So you need to be sure that no oil goes through the ceilings to the outside. And for that, you have casings, which are also needed for drilling the holes and the boreholes, and also some tubing pressures. And also really simple said, the pressure indicates the health status of such a well if an anomaly occurred. And today it's in the most cases a really analog process because you have also idle oil wells, which are not producing anymore. And so they are distributed over a really wide area. So we have use cases in North Germany, in like Niedersachsen, where you have also some legal requirements, which says you need to monitor that in this period. And in fact, you can't do that with today's manpower. And it's also too expensive to fulfill the legal requirement. But let's say, where are the biggest oil fields that are in really abandoned areas? And with abandoned, I mean, we are in the desert, like in Middle East or South America, where you have guys driving with a 4x4 through the desert to the oil well just to monitor the pressure of such a casing or tubing. And if you imagine in the desert, you have dust, you have heat, you have fog, you have sandstorm. So there's also really high human risk. And that are all challenges where we want to reduce the risk for the personnel and also, let's say, save money due to reducing the manual efforts.
The business case behind, just to understand it a bit more. So the use case behind is like the monitoring of these health of oil wells. Then we have the vibration monitoring of the machine and the equipment. And then we have, I guess you mentioned like the flow of oil and gas, which has to be also controlled. What's the business case for your customer behind? Because you talked a bit about cost reduction and so on, but can you explain a bit more? What are like customers kind of losing here?
So typically you have, let's say, 2 or 3 guys driving around, engineers, technicians, and in the desert, for example, that are 1 or 2 hours drive to monitor just one oil well.
Yeah, so loss of time.
Yeah, 2 hours. And also, as mentioned, the high risks for the stuff going out there. And if you would compare that with an IoT solution, you have in 1 second a measurement point, you know exactly what's happening at your oil well. And also in regard to the transparency of your system. Today, the monitoring period is, let's say, quarter yearly, maybe monthly, maybe weekly, but you have a really high blind spot within this period. And so if you imagine like a typical transmission period and with the LoRaWAN, for example, 1 or 2 hours, you have a higher transparency of your oil well. And if a failure would occur, you can react much faster, and it's also no oil disappears and so on. Yeah, that's really simply said what it's about.
Okay, so let's talk in a second about the technology, maybe to have an understanding also to transfer this use case, because some people may be listening now from this industry, maybe there are other people from different industry listening up. So do you have an idea how to transfer this use case also in other industries? Are the pains like the same? Do you see that at customers or?
Yeah, for sure. So also, let's say in geothermal power distribution, you will also have, let's say, the same infrastructure, really roughly said. You have some drillings in the earth and some pipelines, not with oil, but with, let's say, steam. In general, the integrity, like a pressure drop or where pressure indicates you how the health status of your system is. Also in the food or beverage industry, also in the pharmaceutical industry, you have a lot of pressurized vessels, tanks. And here you have also, let's say, gauges today on mobile tanks, which are monitored manually. And also here, if the pressure would drop, for example, then you would have an integrity issue. What would mean, for example, for food that you have contamination and also mold or something in the vessel, and then you need to drop your manufactured good away.
Yeah. And now the data behind, because the source of the data is, for example, like your sensors, but sometimes other ones. So what are the typical data which customers needs here? Are these typical like pressure sensor, vibration sensor, or do you have other data you need to solve this or similar use cases for your customers?
So that's really dependent on the customer's process. So also in some cases you require GPS tracking or whatever. We have for sure a lot of own produced sensors like pressure, temperature, level, and so on and so forth. Then we have for the vibration monitoring, so predictive maintenance of pumps, compressors, motors, and so on and so forth. But we offer also as a service to integrate, let's say, third-party LoRaWAN sensors, like for valve positions. That's also really a big issue in the oil fields. In which position is my valve, but also, let's say, in other kind of industries. So we also offer here the service to select proper sensors, integrate all the sensors and into one system so that the customer doesn't need to care about, let's say, the payload, decoding and whatever.
When I think about like the technical challenge your customers have now in the field, maybe to have an idea also, what is the loss on customer side from a technical challenge? Julian, do you have any insights of the typical technical challenge to bring now all these data types together and bring that into one system? Can you give some insights on that?
Yeah, I can say some examples. It's indeed not the easiest thing to transport data because it starts already. IoT is a big name and you have to identify. I mean, your mobile phone is also an IoT device, but we are moving in the low power area and networks. And here we are talking about two main technologies. I think the leading one is LoRaWAN. The other one that popped up like 3 years ago is the IoT technology. They're both similar with some technical differences. IoT is a bit more for metering for very high dense networks. But in the end, once the sensors send the data and they arrive at the server, which is our part, let's say the heart, the brain of an IoT network, we support all kind of different APIs. And APIs, the meaning of the APIs is that those are protocols where the customer can then push the data wherever he wants. And most of the large corporates like WIKA and us, we are working with the highly professional blue chip companies. They tend to have their own IoT platforms, but some of them do also collaborate with visualization platforms like Power BI with Microsoft, Amazon, and there we have one-to-one integration well. But right now I couldn't say an example where we did not manage to transport the data to the end application. There have been some challenges, like if it has to be compatible with Oracle, with SAP, or the larger programs, but this requires a collaboration with the end application producer, but it's all doable.
Okay, so maybe just to make sure that the names and the technologies are kind of clear. So you mentioned LoRaWAN, and LoRaWAN in a long term, when you write it down, is like long range wide area network. So that's a standard which you're using for long range communications, right? So this is something what is really needed for this kind of data type and use cases we're just discussing, right?
Absolutely. Both technologies have been built for long range and wide area networks. And what does long range mean today? I mean, Wi-Fi, everyone knows, maybe after 10 or 15 meters it's done, but you have high data bandwidth with sending gigabytes, etc., and in milliseconds. The technologies we are using for that, you require a gateway, and to one gateway, depending on how many messages a sensor sends, you can connect up to 5,000 sensors. And we have measured distances of 100, 150 kilometers of distance. This is, of course, in best case scenarios where you have, let's call it direct line of sight, where you could theoretically see the sensor. It's not behind a hill, etc. But in rural areas, like in a city, we are speaking about 15 to 20 kilometers of distance, which is perfect for the industry because hardly no industry has bigger places than 15, 20 kilometers. And if this is the place, you just place a new gateway and you extend your network connectivity. But LoRaWAN and IoT are pretty similar technologies. IoT has an advantage. IoT brings the telegram splitting, which splits the message in different, let's say, parameters. And in the end, they put it together. So the probability of losing data is much lower. It's up to 8 times lower of losing data. And this technology has been built mainly by the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany in collaboration with Deal Metering, with a strong focus on the metering sector.
Yeah, and it's scalable, right? So when you have thousands of different devices in the field, IoT is a great technology based on this specific technology you're just mentioning to also scale millions of devices which are in the field, right?
Absolutely. I think it's a very proven technology for the future. But I must say today, I don't know one case where LoRaWAN has faced issues with interferences with other technologies or too dense networks. And if there are too dense networks, you can always help with installing more gateways. So both technologies are fantastic. I think LoRaWAN today has the advantage that the ecosystem is really huge. It started 2013, 2014. You have so many sensors, so many gateways. And this is something that the IoT Alliance is trying to catch up right now, because having a big ecosystem with a lot of hardware, software companies, etc. available is, of course, an advantage. But in the end, the customer is the king. They have to decide, okay, which technology they want to follow. And the beautiful thing, together with WIKA, you're the only ones in the market providing a professional hybrid solution. This means that our solution, our software solution with the hardware of WIKA, the customer has one platform, one user interface, and they can use either LoRa or IoT or mix them together.
Okay, nice. So when you're listening now and you say, hey, I want to discuss my use case, so please feel free to contact Julian or Philipp to discuss your use case, because there are different technologies and I think you two can help a lot with different technologies and what's the right technology for a specific sensor type.
Absolutely. So technologies, there's always this big question, okay, which one is the best IoT technology? And I like to repeat, it's the same like if someone asks you, okay, which is the best car for you? You need to know what do you want to do with the car. Is it a family trip? Do you want to go to camping? Do you want to go to the racetrack? And that's exactly the same thing. Depending on the use case, you will find the adaptive IoT technology, because you cannot have everything. If you have long range, the data will be lower because you're traveling the data in different frequencies. It's like a bit like economy. You improve inflation and the unemployment at the same time. You turn one wheel and you turn at the same time the other wheel. So you need to find the right parameters depending on the use case you're using.
Yeah, that's why I love to talk about concrete use cases, because it depends so much what kind of use case type you have and what kind of data and frequency you need for that. And maybe just to clarify one question. So WIKA, you're providing like the hardware, you have the measured value, you know your assets and also the sensors in detail. And from LORIOT, you're offering the technologies for this application, but also the software, right? Mm-hmm. So can you give me also an insight how the software part is working?
Yeah, I would say the software, as said before, is, let's say, the brain, the heart of the IoT system. That's where you connect the sensors, where you connect the gateways, where the data is transported, where security happens, where the data is pushed to applications. So it's a very essential topic. And I would say we are speaking here about LoRaWAN and IoT. And the biggest advantage by far in the IoT industry here is that these technologies, they provide the possibility to have your own network. It means we as LORIOT, we can install that software on premise. Mm-hmm. Let's take a company Z. Company Z does not want to send data via 5G, narrowband IoT, or normal basic SIM cards because they don't want the data to go to telecom operator back and they don't know what is happening with the data. So what we offer is we install on-premise on the company's Z own server our software. They can connect the gateways, the sensors, and it's theoretically like running a completely closed, isolated IoT network with no data coming in or no data going out of this network to outside the world. Of course, they have the APIs. If they say, I want to send this data from this sensor outside to Microsoft, to Amazon, to IBM, whatever, they can do it. But having this full power of the data, being owner of their own network, this brings huge value to these large corporates. Because if I go to meetings with these large corporates, one of the first questions always, what about security? We don't want to have data outside the company. We don't want cyber attacks, etc. And this is how you can isolate your own network and be the owner of the network and have the full control over your data.
Yes. When we talk about software from LORIOT, we mean like it's more network management, what you're doing, right? With these different hardware components, like the different sensors. And then you have the possibility to manage your devices and do whatever you like with that. Like you need an integration. You also can integrate the data, but it's kind of a scalable network management also, what you're having as a layer.
Absolutely. It's fully scalable with the container system we are running. And the user interface is, let's say, very user-friendly done. The first thing you do if you want to build the IoT network is to connect the sensors. Let's say you buy 20,000 sensors from WIKA. Somehow you have to register them. And that's what our software is there. There's a network server. You open the user interface. You click on, I want to register the sensors. I want to register the gateways that are communicating like a Wi-Fi router at your home. Then we do the transport to the server, and with the APIs you can push the data. And our network server, of course, has all kind of monitoring tools to measure the quality of the signal, the quality of the sensors, if a gateway is online, if a gateway is offline. Because our largest customers are telecom operators with really huge networks, and they require a high degree of information of the network, of stability and the health of the network. And we provide this kind of information.
And Philipp, you presented like 2 or 3 and more use cases because you have a mass of different customers out there. So how do you address now the customers with which kind of offering? Because it's kind of simple to use this cooperation now also for my use case, but how does it work? So how do you address like customers' needs now from the offering part or the products?
We can offer the holistic solution from the sensor to the network management to the end platform, but it depends really on what the customer wants to have. And so one of the benefits is the customer doesn't need to talk with 1,000 companies and so on. So we have one single point of contact, and then we can distribute the work to our experts.
So it's also simple to start when I say, hey, I have my use case and I need to bring this to life and I need a solution for that. So it's kind of simple to address WIKA or LORIOT and then have a similar use case. That's kind of easy then, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So you're doing this like together as partners.
Always.
Yeah. That was also one of the main goals to come together. As said, today IoT is still very complex to put all the puzzle pieces together. And for the end customer, we wanted to bring simplicity. And simplicity means to bring a solution as complete as possible. And we've managed to do that with WIKA, with the hardware, because we provide the full hardware to them. We provide the software, the security, the communication, and WIKA has some specific end application with visualization for the sensors. We are also sometimes in the background delivering to WIKA our solution, and WIKA is only one counterparty in contact with the end customer. This makes it extremely easy, very transparent, and easier to understand for the end customer. And this factor of simplicity has a lot of value because an end customer does not want to start with an IoT project and check here for the sensors, check there for the gateways, check another company for the communication, then another for security. It gets very complex. And the idea is to bring exactly this vertical, easy solution on a really high professional degree of quality.
Yeah, so in the most cases, you also, let's say, talk to some maintenance guys and so on, and they know WIKA for years now, and that's also often a door opener. And the first step, they don't care about, let's say, how does the whole system work and so on. They want to have an easy solution, and that's really high benefit because we can offer a really simple startup kit and a plug and play solution due to LORIOT has also the flexibility to offer, let's say, cloud hosted network management, also with on-premise solutions. On-premise means also a lot of clarification effort, but to start to test the system, to see the benefits in real, that's really easy. You just need, let's say, a half hour and then you can start. And so here we take care about who is responsible for what, and so that the customer doesn't care about, let's say, the technology itself.
Yeah, right. Because I really want to start with my use case and set up the business case, what I have in mind. Yeah. Do you have any additional best practices which you want to share with the audience, setting up those or similar use cases?
Yeah, we made an experience that in the most cases, the companies start with, let's say, some isolated solutions where they have, let's say, a gateway with where a network management system is running on the gateway. You have a lot of limitations, and then they build up a network in the company, or they try to build up a network in the company with such a technology, and then you are done. And that won't work because we have, let's say, a partner like LORIOT. It's so easy to have a professional solution, and also it's not really expensive to have such a professional network management solution. And at the beginning, you don't need to care about what is in 10 or 20 years, because you have already set to integrate 1,000 sensors with the system you have installed in 5 minutes. And you can start with one single use case, like gas bottle monitoring or whatever. And then a half year later, you can expand just installing additional sensors. And if you want to have data just in your premise, then you can also do that afterwards. You don't need to say, that's the final solution, like a complete customized engineered solution. So that's a scalable and integratable solution. And that's what we saw in the past.
Cool.
Yeah, I can agree with what Philipp is saying, that they are, let's say, cheap solution, even open source software to build networks. But our experience is that some companies think, okay, let's take an open source, let's try. But suddenly they see, okay, support is not working, or they are not fulfilling the standards, or it's not scalable anymore. And in the end, they come. But something that I think is very important is to have the right partners, because IoT is new in the market. The companies, they don't really have too much big of a clue, okay, what's the right thing? And as I said, it's a big picture of puzzle pieces. And if one puzzle piece is not matching, if one piece of the chain is not the right quality, the system will be down. It can be the sensor, it can be the gateway, it can be the software, it can be the security, it can be the application, it can be the APIs. One single piece failing means you will not get the data at the end of the vertical solution. And what WIKA and we make sure is that everything, every component of this vertical solution has been tested, has been approved, and has been fully integrated in our solution to be sure if the customer collaborates with us, we can deliver to him an end solution that has been proved and is working.
Exactly. So thanks for summing up that in the end, and it's really important also to have the scalable base to set up all use cases you want to address now or in the future. Thank you, first of all, for sharing all these use cases. And I really clearly understood what's the benefit of the partnership, but also how the technologies are working in your different products. And I guess when you're listening now, I think the next touch point could be SPS Fair in Nuremberg in Germany. But if you're listening now and the SPS is over, I guess it's in November, right? No problem. You also can get in touch with Philipp and Julian. I will put your LinkedIn profiles in the show notes so you could directly get in touch with them. Yeah, SPS, we will have also a meetup in our community. If you are in Germany on the 12th of November, then you're happily invited to come over. I will also put this link in the show note. And Philipp, I guess you also have a booth there, right?
Yes.
As usual, a big one.
Yes.
So from my side, thank you very much for your statements, for these best practice sharing today. Yeah, I would love to leave the last words to you guys. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks from my side.
Yeah, thanks, Madeleine. It was great as the last time. And yeah, I'm looking forward maybe to our next podcast or what comes also in the future, and looking forward to the SPS. And if you are in Middle East, you can also join us at the ADIPEC. And thanks.
Also from my side, Madeleine, thank you for this opportunity. 12th, I won't be here in Europe. I will be, what Philipp said, at the ADIPEC. That's the biggest gas and oil event worldwide, together with WIKA. We'll be doing business over there. And yeah, maybe to the listeners, it could be maybe an idea that the listeners have a possibility to ask questions, okay, what's interesting for them in the IoT space. I think IoT is so big, we touched just not even 1% of what is possible to speak about it. But let the listeners tell us what they would like to hear next time, and then we do another podcast going into the questions they want to hear from us. Thank you again for this invitation.
Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.